Welcome to the Evangelical Dark Web. Joining us live tonight is the other Paul.
What up?
Yeah, he's
Now,
more of an intellectual than I am, but nonetheless.
Don't flatter me. Really quickly, though, for some reason, your volume just like dropped for me, like dropped entirely.
Okay, yeah, is this better?
Oh, okay, yeah. Good now.
Not coming in too hot. Okay, that's good. I might have bumped my microphone or whatever. So anyway, we are going to have a fun time tonight talking about Michael Bird's pro-abortion evangelicalism. That's what I titled the stream, but it is just a cringe article that he wrote 2 months after the overturn of Roe v. Wade. So we're going to be diving into that tonight. And then afterwards, we got some meme review, just going through all the memes from the cross politics L that they just took on their issue when they tried to argue that credo baptism led to transgenderism in a causal sense. And this was just such a bad argument. And we're going to talk about the memes about that because I already did a video on that, but we haven't done a video on the memes. So we're going to do that after we dunk on Michael Bird. So it's just going to be a fun night. And if you're joining us live, send in the chats. We like responding to live chat here on the Evangelical Dark Web, and also like the stream to boost the YouTube algorithms. So anyway, how are you doing tonight, this morning, whatever time zone you prefer to identify with?
Yes, it is a lovely Australian morning right now. It was a bit of a late rise for me, which is kind of often right now since I'm not working, although I am about to start a job at a local Christian bookstore, funnily enough. So it's right up my alley. Going to get that nice staff discount for materials I need to get. Yeah, apart from that, late night, early rise, little bit of a late rise. Just a chill morning so far. I had some brekkie and that's about it so far. Not sure what I'm going to do with the rest of my day after this, but hey, glad I'm here.
The world is your oyster. Yeah, I 100%. Mean, it's a busy season for me at work, so I'm just hanging in there, trying to do as much as I can, and then trying to heavily invest in Evangelical Dark Web because it's a growing enterprise for sure. Just keep at it. So let's kind of talk overview. My comparison for Michael Bird, and I put this in the description of the live stream, was that Michael Bird is essentially the Russell Moore of Australia. That's kind of how I liken him because he definitely has some clout with like mainstream media, from what I can observe, has international appeal to some extent. I don't know what his media credentials are, since in like a week from now, Russell Moore will take over Christianity Today. He will be the editor-in-chief there, or is compromised today is what we like to call it here. Yeah. So is that a fair characterization?
Well, it is in one sense, and it's not in another. So as we talked before, show in the sense that in how he does his takes, in how he reasons, and frankly, just how he snakes things really well, including with this article in particular, he's very, very much like Russell Moore, doing that kind of that super kind of trying to find technical exploits and changing words and their meanings and being all around misleading with trying to get the appeal of conservatives, but still at the same time punching right, kissing left. Very much like Russell Moore in that way, but then also not like Russell Moore in that he can be very outgoing and very openly aggressive in certain respects. Not to mention that he's officially egalitarian. I don't think Russell Moore is, even if he does kind of trend that way. And so in terms of the personality, I actually liken Michael Bird more to Amy Bird, which is kind of providential, I guess, because they're same last name except for a slight different spelling. And I think they do content together sometimes as well. So it's interesting that way. It's kind of half is correct that he's kind of like Australia's Russell Moore.
I also kind of think, if he were from New Zealand, I think we'd call him more of a hobbit in a certain sense. And Russell Moore, if you followed Russell Moore for a while, you might remember his famous double-masked jab tweet where he talked about how this hobbit is vaccinated. So maybe, and then Michael Bird kind of looks like a hobbit, or how I imagine a hobbit would look. At least when I was thinking about just doing that intro just doing a cold open where it's the video of Michael Bird talking about whether Jesus got an erection or not because he was trying to be funny for some comedian or whatever. I don't know Australia's late night comedy scene, but I don't know whether it was something like
non-existent.
Okay, and I thought he was trying to do something for that and be funny for them, but it was just so super cringe. And the guy's like, "You were the one who brought this up," and it was just very cringe.
Yeah.
But
it sucks because otherwise he was pretty cool. Like in my brief period some years ago of like very intense research on the gospels and history and looking at like niche atheist blogs who try to say, oh, the gospel not reliable. Michael Bird was kind of cool. I looked at his stuff kind of briefly, in particular in response to like Bart Ehrman and that, and he's cool in that respect in terms of just basic like certain areas of biblical scholarship, but otherwise with social commentary, he's an absolute train wreck. Like my word, he is something special.
it's kind of interesting because I think, this is just one of my, I don't want to say realizations, but certainly just an operating standard is that if someone wants to be liked by the world, they will sell out. That is your ultimate textbook ingredient for a sellout, or a cookbook ingredient, I should say, for a sellout, is they want to be liked. They will sell you out so quickly if they want to be liked. If they're trying to Michael Scott navigating biblical issues, they will sell you out.
Yeah, 100%.
So let's dive into this article. We got unpopular reflections on Roe versus Wade. Michael Bird, August 17 is when he published this, so almost 2 months late to react. Let me actually switch tabs here, and this is his Substack. I don't know why everyone's using Substack these days, because I guess it's like this decade's version of WordPress.
I think so. It's kind of looking like that. It's very easy, but I'm just Chad who makes a full proper website with Wix.
Yeah, I mean, I started out using WordPress, and then someone who was a fan of what I do helped volunteer to build me a site, and he used Elementor, which I think is pretty professional. I'm gonna zoom in. Tell me when it's too large.
That's perfect. Shout out to my man Pog in the chat.
Awesome. I don't know you, Pog. I haven't seen you here before. All right, this should be large enough. Because font size does matter. So, indeed. Introduction in the overturning of the 1973 decision, Roe v. Wade by SCOTUS, in the Dobbs decision of 2022 sent shockwaves around the USA and all over the world. There have been protests in many cities outside America by people opposed to the ruling. The European Union, even Australian politicians, have condemned the overturning of Roe v. Wade. Prince Harry even called the SCOTUS decision a global assault on democracy and freedom. Now, you might be more affiliated with British monarchy than I am, being not a Commonwealth. But is Prince Harry the one that was on Epstein Island a bunch?
No, it wasn't Prince Harry. No, it was Prince Andrew.
Okay. I can't always keep up with it. I'm sure
to be fair, I don't keep up with it a ton either, because the monarchy is like, it may as well not exist right now. Like, purely ceremonial.
Right. There's, because they don't exercise the authority that they in theory do have, because if they even tried to exercise it, they would be ousted. So tough balance for them.
Oh yeah.
Because it is such an emotive debate, I have been reluctant to say anything about it. Well, keep in mind his reluctance. I mean, yes, it's 2 months behind the actual decision, but the leak of the actual decision happened in April, I believe, early April.
Mm-hmm. Something like that.
However, now that the dust has died down, I thought I'd share a few thoughts, because this is something that Christian leaders do need to think about and wrestle with, as we will encounter people who must navigate this difficult subject. Okay.
True, but we know what the likes of Bird and Big Eva guys mean when they say navigating difficult subjects and have these conversations. We know what they mean by that. They don't just
so
actually mean sober conversation.
right, we are gonna start. This is where the cringe begins. Preliminary thoughts. Before I jump into Roe v. Wade, let me offer some background on my own thinking and what has influenced my approach to this difficult topic. To be upfront, I am pro-life, by which I mean I believe in protecting the voiceless and vulnerable from death, deprivation, and oppression. That is not what pro-life means. So that's his definition of pro-life.
Yeah, when they give that, here's the thing: just with throwing away all context, the simple meaning of pro-life and what a Christian ought to be, opposing, wanting to protect the voiceless and vulnerable from death, deprivation, and oppression, on its own, that's cool. That's fine. But we know in our context when they say I'm pro-life, and by that, I don't specifically mean anti-abortion. I mean all this stuff he says. You know that they're just trying to set themselves up as like, oh, I'm truly pro-life, and those people who oppose abortion, they're not really pro-life. I'm sure I do support killing infants, at least in certain circumstances. But otherwise, I protect the oppressed. That I'm really pro-life.
I mean, they're trying to dilute the definition of pro-life so much that the people who are actually pro-life don't actually fit into their definition.
And you know what's so funny? It's so funny because like Michael Bird of all people, he's a biblical scholar. He himself would know that there's times in history where there's certain terms where their technical meaning and their cultural contextual association may not be the same thing. And so you may have, well, let's say the term Christian, for example, right? Where literally in the Greek, Christianos, it literally means little Christ. So if you want to have the technical meaning, someone who is a little Christ, a little Messiah, that's one thing. But then the cultural contextual meaning, it refers to the people who follows the teachings of Jesus of Nazareth, okay? And so likewise the same here. He should, with what he knows as a scholar, be able to do something as simple as the same thing with pro-life. There is a contextual meaning to that of a specific movement that's not necessarily identical to the technical possibility of what that word is. And that's why I believe when people like Bird and other Big Eva people do the whole, oh, I'm pro-life, and that means against oppression and all that stuff. It's a deliberate ploy. It's a deliberate thing on their part to, for no other reason than just to dilute the anti-abortion cause, because there's literally no good reason at all to be wanting to take away attention from the abortion cause, given the fact that it is the most the most anti-life, the most anti-human thing today, with the highest death count. You would think that they would accept that having the highest thing. And if they want to go on their whole, let's solve oppression and all that stuff, fine, do that as well. But why are you trying to hijack a certain label that has a certain association? Why?
Yeah, I mean, the only close second I can think of is the needles. Now, did you hear that YouTube removed they removed saying that masks don't work from their unacceptable conduct or whatever, or TOS?
Well,
They
I wouldn't.
removed that
I
from
haven't
their
checked that, but I haven't
uh,
checked. But it doesn't surprise me at all because I mean, of course, our Lord and Savior, the unnamed ethereal scientists, say so.
So, next sentence. That includes an aging grandmother in a Dutch nursing home, a gay teenager in an Iranian prison, a prisoner on death row in China, a Syrian refugee in a concentration camp on Manus Island, and
Oh,
yes,
here we go.
a
Yeah,
baby in its mother's womb. So I just want to dissect this sentence
and
because it
yes,
is,
a baby in its mother's womb. Do you know how like dismissive that sounds? Can you
well,
see?
this sentence is extremely dismissive.
Yeah,
So it's drawing moral equivalencies where they do not exist.
yeah.
So an aging grandmother in a Dutch nursing home, that's a reference to euthanasia. I will allow that one because euthanasia and abortion have been historically tied.
Yeah.
So there's long-standing precedents that opposing euthanasia is a pro-life position.
Mm-hmm.
So a gay teenager in an Iranian prison, is that the same thing as being an unborn baby?
No, not really. And not to mention that it's an issue from an area very remote to us, which as tragic as it is, we have to prioritize our immediate priority and attention is in our own lands, and so I'm not going to have the same exertion and concern for the gay teen in an Iranian prison, as bad as that may be, for the unborn child who's probably being dissected just 20 kilometers east of me right now.
I mean, the other thing to consider is that, I don't think it's wrong for a country to say to have homosexuality be illegal. Is that really against God's law? No, it's not. So
I'm
you're
personally
complaining about
against prison entirely. Like, I don't think prison at all is a good, like, full stop as a criminal justice thing. I'm against it, but otherwise, yeah, like, there's a genuine
the idea of punishing that which God says is evil is not fundamentally wrong for a government to do. That is why they bear the sword. So to equate someone who has done wrong to being an unborn baby is false. And the next one's kind of just like it, a prisoner on death row in China. Well, why is he on death row? I mean, I know that China kills a lot of people. Are you allowed to say that on YouTube? But don't they execute murderers too? I understand that there's the implication here is, Uyghurs are put on death row. I don't even think they're put on a death row. Certainly not in the American understanding of that term. But China executes murderers too. It's not a moral equivalent.
I presume he's probably thinking of just like the political dissident, maybe, who'd be executed.
Right.
In which case, yeah, that sucks. But again, for us in Australia, in America, not the same issue. Not the our same concern in the same way that the kid being dissected right near us is.
Yeah, that's also weird because usually when articles try to do this type of broadening of pro-life, they actually equate it to issues in the contemporary society. They usually equate it to the person in poverty or on food stamps. They usually equate it to a bunch of usually welfare issues, or in American context, illegal immigration would probably be one of the number one comparisons. But he's going like broad, global, very specific. And then a Syrian refugee in a concentration camp on Manus Island. I don't know where that is.
Yeah, this is an Australian thing. Manus Island is a small island off our coast where for past decade or something. So, depending on what our asylum seeker policy was, very often illegal immigrants, they'd be picked up from their boats and then put on a place like Manus Island, which is like basically a detention center. So that's the reference there.
Syrian refugee is just so 2014.
Yeah, that's very 2014.
Ukrainian, maybe?
I know, Ukraine is the new fashion. Syrians, yeah, get out of here. We don't care about you anymore. Yeah, Calais, France, get out. We don't give a crap anymore.
Yeah, Ukrainians are where it's like America's like, yeah, we're done funding your jihad in Syria. Ukraine, here's some car bombs or whatever's going on nowadays. But okay. That is my default setting. It was also the early church's default setting, as the early church was unanimously opposed to both abortion and infanticide.
Very true. Very based.
Yeah, very true. In addition, as I've argued before, when it comes to abortion, we are dealing with two goods set in oppositions against each other. No, we're not. What? Women's bodily autonomy and preserving innocent life.
Oh my gosh, man.
Wow.
It's like, oh my word. Okay, the fundamental presupposition that killing a child, oh my god. The more fundamental presupposition that bodily autonomy, so as to include the ability to destroy anything within your body, is a good. No, these two, if it is a good, they can go together perfectly harmoniously. Women can do what they want, quote unquote, with their body, insofar as it's not sin. Like, maybe, does Bert ever say this to anything else? Because we don't have bodily autonomy in countless other issues that regard sin. Is he gonna? Does he ever say the same thing about that? That's a meaningless statement.
He needs a nice diagram on what is a woman's body and what is the unborn child's body. He needs a nice diagram to kind of show him where
Well, here's the
bodily
thing. He does
autonomy
recognize it,
ends.
as he'll say down here. I think in this paragraph or another one that and elsewhere that he's pro-life. He'll claim that, so he will agree that this is the woman's body, that's the child's body. But then he just gives this absolute crapshoot reasoning where the whole point of this article is to try and say that right-wing pro-lifers are inconsistent by, on one hand, being against abortion, but then on the other hand, not allowing in waves and waves of immigrants, or not being super vocal about another issue that has to do with quality of life and all that, which is retarded. That has nothing to do with moral consistency. It's a matter of emphasis, and it's perfectly right for someone to have all their attention focused on the greatest mass killing in human history still ongoing right now. That's perfectly legitimate. And so to put it up as if women's bodily autonomy as a good comes anything close to innocent life, so that there is a genuine conflict and not a bloody obvious hierarchy where one goes after the other.
This
That's
isn't a
stupid.
balancing act. It's not a balancing
it's not a balancing act. No way.
So, as such, the abortion debate is a conflict between two good things: a defense of the voiceless and vulnerable, including infants in utero or post-birth, and the right of women, rather than men, to decide what happens to women's bodies. What?
This doesn't have bloody anything to do with men saying.
Rather than men.
Oh my word!
Might I remind him who authored Roe v. Wade? It was not 7 white dudes. I believe it was 6 white dudes and 1 black man.
Yeah.
Thurgood Marshall should not be a celebrated figure in United States history. Change my mind. Roe v. Wade is my only argument. Is the only argument I need.
It's like the whole analogy, that analogy that's used often with pro-lifers, where it's like, it's like being allowed to kill someone within your house just because it's your house and it's your autonomy. I think this is perfectly adequate here. Like, imagine saying the right of women. Imagine saying we need to decide between two different goods: the defense of the voiceless and the homeless. The defense of homeowners and such versus the hang on. No, I'm trying to find
property
out.
rights versus homeless.
So the defense, we need to choose between two conflicting goods: the defense of the homeless versus the right of homeowners rather than non-homeowners to decide what's happening in their homes. And this in the middle of a situation where people just kill squatters or homeless people coming into their house, because why not? They're two conflicting goods, right? So I mean,
right.
Clearly, and obviously, he wouldn't say the same, because the homeless are also, of course, one of the social justices protected classes. So then they definitely say, "Oh, there's no conflict of good here. Clearly, the homeless have a right to life whatsoever." And I'm just saying, okay, cool. Now do the babies, do the bloody babies,
right.
bro. Hey, if the woman, her body, her choice. Okay, my house, my choice. Get out.
Now, was it? Postmodern Czechoslovakian war factory says Chad Clarence Thomas is greater than Virgin Thurgood Marshall, and totally agree. That is a based take. The question is, how do we balance these mutual goods? Again, I think we already crushed how this isn't a balancing act. This is a hierarchy.
Yeah.
A triage. So also, I am fully aware that there are legitimate reasons for some abortions, things like ectopic pregnancy, incest, which is not wincest, rape, and more.
Michael Bird, you're not pro-life, mate. You're full of crap.
I mean, I hate the fact that incest is brought into the abortion debate.
Yeah, like, what the heck? Like, granting, incest is disgusting and all that, right? But
it's
presumably, if it's distinguished from rape, we're going to presume that this is consensual, right? And the whole point of the whole abortion thing is more autonomy. I do what I want as long as I'm not harming anyone. So by these same people's logic, if there's a brother and sister wanting to go at it, what the heck? Why the heck are they raising up abortion? Why can't they do what they want?
I mean, Cersei didn't abort Joffrey, so there we go.
I know, right? Joffrey deserves a chance at life.
But here's the thing: like, people say incest because it's considered gross, which it
Yeah,
is.
that's it.
I mean,
Even though it makes no
what is it?
sense.
Leviticus 18 clearly draws a lot of boundaries, rightfully
Oh, yeah.
so. But when you talk about things like incest, because you really are talking about eugenics, that's really the reason, is because, inbred people are bad for the gene pool. But they're unwilling to go so far as to say people who are defective is a legitimate reason. So why is incest the acceptable eugenics that they want to promote, but things that are more detrimental to the human gene pool? And just speaking from a eugenicist perspective for a second here, the things that are most detrimental to the human gene pool are not actually brought up in the abortion debate whatsoever, except for incest, which theoretically good genes keeping it in the family. Now, that's not how Mendelian genetics works, but that's how royalty and rich people thought for many years. But this is the line they want to draw for eugenics, which doesn't even, it's not even in the eugenics order of operations here. And then obviously, as is pointed out in the comment section, ectopic pregnancies are not considered abortions because they're not.
Yeah, because real doctors, okay, so not those who are performing an abortion, an actual doctor who's actually doing their bloody job, they don't. The thing with abortion is that it's proactive. You are actively seeking, as part of the procedure, to kill the child and then take out its corpse. With an ectopic pregnancy and other complications like that, normatively, you're actually trying to save both lives. That's the whole thing. And if the baby dies as an unfortunate result in the operation, or in the operation you find, look, if we don't do X or whatever, then the woman's going to die, and she doesn't want to sacrifice her life or whatever. That's not the same thing as an abortion procedure, which is proactive and pre-planned. That's not the same thing. That's like, when they bring up this example, I just know, okay, you just either, it brings up when I hear this example, it's one of those situations that brings up a dichotomy. Either you're an absolute idiot or you're a liar. Please pick your poison.
Right. And, abortion is an elective procedure. Ectopic pregnancy removals, which might not even be the same procedure as an abortion, because I imagine if it's outside the uterus, you're not going up, or you're not taking abortion pills necessarily. So could be a laparoscopic surgery. So again, I'm not like an expert on this, but it's not the same thing as an abortion. And that's kind of, and then they talk about stillbirths. Oh, that's just the same procedure as an abortion. Are you really equating removing a stillbirth in which you're trying to induce a labor or go and induce a C-section, essentially, to remove a dead corpse, which if continues its course, will not become a crying baby outside the womb, but will result in sepsis and kill you.
Not the same
clearly
thing.
Different.
That's not abortion.
Yeah. Clearly not the same thing. And obviously we got to talk about the rape exception that he wants to have. This kind of goes back to his point about women's bodily autonomy. And when that's on an equal pair with innocent life, if that's on an equal level playing field with innocent life, you are opening the door to a consent-based morality system, which is unbiblical, if not anti-biblical. Because it's basically saying, I decide, or, it's already kind of created a lot of Me Too issues. But aside from just the Me Too issues that it's created, it's also kind of this notion of, I get to decide by my consent whether it's life or not. And we've seen that with consent-based morality, women have a very tough time not retroactively changing their mind on whether they gave consent to an actual thing or not.
Oh, yeah. So, SBC can tell us all about that.
Yes, the Southern Baptist Convention can tell us all about that. So,
yeah.
And just apparently they can tell the FBI about that as well.
Yeah. Oh, that's going to be a fun one.
I mean, I gave my take. They're not actually, I don't think they're being investigated for that. But when you lie to the public about having a secret database of sex abusers, and then when the database comes out, it's just newspaper clippings. in Google search results. Like
So
any
true.
background check would have flagged these people. But
So true. Oh man,
yeah.
but yeah, the rape exception is just another one where it's just one where I can say no, not an exception. They want to give the example, the heart tugging example of like, oh, a 12-year-old gets raped and she has a trauma, and you're going to pull her through the trauma of giving birth, and I'd say yes, because that's an innocent life. She,
So
as traumatized and horribly attacked as she was in that event, she could still live on. She could still make a recovery. Okay, she can still have a life. Okay, whereas whereas killing a child in the womb is killing a child. That's
so
still murder. You have
here's a
to get
little
around that.
history about Roe v. Wade that you might not be aware of. I believe the Jane Roe or Jane Doe or whatever her name is, did become a Catholic later in life and totally regret her decision.
Yep.
You know, hopefully she's saved because she could not have atoned for the evil that she did. That's for sure.
Oh, 100%.
But otherwise, I believe they wanted to lie. I believe that the entire Roe v. Wade case was based off a lie about a gang rape situation.
Really?
Yeah, I mean, the pro-abortion movement is not willing to. They're not beyond lying about tragic incidences to raise their profile. This was not an organic case. This was an activist case being used to force the issue to a higher court.
Yeah, that's right.
So, and then I guess we can continue. While there is a lot of false information on this subject, I'm told that all U.S. states that ban abortions do have provisions for cases like these, although it varies from state to state.
Yeah. And in many cases, that's not a good thing. That's not. Like, you
It's
shouldn't have
not,
exceptions
but
for rape or incest.
I
But
thought you were
some
talking
as
about
well.
the
Some as
varying
well.
from state to state.
Yeah,
For a second.
honestly. Like, as far as I'm aware, when it comes to like people saying, "Oh, but what if you're going to ban ectopic pregnancy removal and blah blah blah," and it's just like they don't have to make it. They don't have to make a provision for that. Like I remember watching a bit like Jeff Durbin and Apologia Studios, those guys who do a lot of the abolition stuff. They just have to keep repeating themselves because they're working on these bills themselves. They have to keep repeating themselves. We don't have to make an exception for an ectopic pregnancy because that's not a bloody abortion. That's not.
Right. Yeah, exactly. So, also, something that deeply shaped my views on this topic was meeting an African American woman who showed me from my Twitter why she was pro life. And we got a tweet. If you're a black woman in America, it is statistically safer for you to have an abortion than carry a pregnancy to term or give birth. Scary stats.
That's
Scary
the
stats
spirit
because
of Margaret Sanger flowing through that tweet. My word.
that's a scary stat on the 500th anniversary of the Reformation, right?
thank,
Um,
thank, thank you, Frau Sanger.
Yeah, that is a scary stat because that is totally not true.
Yeah, me thinks that's horse crap.
Yeah, especially if the aborted party is a girl.
But also do note how he'll specifically point out that this was an African American woman who said it. Like if this was a white woman who brought this up to Michael Bird, he either wouldn't give a stuff at all or would just be like, "Oh yeah, that's kind of unfortunate." Like,
Now,
oh, African American woman. Wow, this is serious, guy.
Do Australians use the term African American? I'm just asking because
when talking about
I wouldn't say African American when I'm referring to someone in the UK. Like that's just
I mean, normally we'll just say like, well, when talking about African Americans, we will often say African Americans, but sometimes just for us, we might talk about, I might just say like Africans or blacks or whatever, just pretty simple stuff like that.
I thought it was odd for an Australian author or writer to say African American, just because that's not wow.
Thanks,
okay,
Pog.
That was a little unnecessary. She showed me this and said, if I didn't know better, I'd swear Planned Parenthood was trying to stop us blacks from breeding. Yes.
True. Very true.
The irony is that if you know anything about the origins of Planned Parenthood, that was precisely its purpose, to stop blacks and poor whites from breeding. Yes.
Very true. Very true, Mr. Bird.
And then TD would like to point out that Elon Musk is an African American.
He absolutely is. He is, in fact, the most successful African American in the United States. So good on him.
And then you mentioned Jeff Durbin, and apparently the Young Turks recently did an attack video on Jeff Durbin and abortion abolitionists. Okay,
I would love to watch that.
Are they still a thing? Like,
they, believe it or not, they are. But I've only just heard of this attack on Jeff Durbin. That's super funny if that actually happens. So the Young Turks, anti-abortion zealots wants to charge women with murder. Like, wow, that's actually an accurate headline. Thank you.
Why don't they do the Armenian Holocaust first?
Yeah. They get so worked up when people brought that. I remember seeing like this clip, like a leaked clip of someone recording in like a public thing they were doing where it was like a conference or whatever, and they were on the stage and it was being live streamed as well. But when someone asked the question of Anna, why you're Armenian, why are you part of a group that's named after the guys who genocided your people? And then they cut the stream after that, but someone had a hidden camera within it and recorded what happened after. And this woman was just laying into this guy, like going absolutely berserk at him, like, how dare you bring that up?
It's just one of the most ironic things, because not only are they like adamantly denying that it ever took place, but they name their channel after the organization that carried it out and organized it. So it's just like beyond no moral high ground on any issue at all.
Oh my word.
I didn't necessarily agree with the slogan safe, legal, and rare, but I respected it. It recognized that abortion was not ideal, but for many women, it was the least worst option.
Notice the reference. It's the woman that matters. It's for her. It's the least worst option. Who gives a shit about the baby? It's about the woman.
Right. And if you followed evangelical dark web content, you know that one of my biggest targets this year has been pro-life feminism, and how feminism has just completely subverted the pro-life movement, certainly in the United States, to the point where all the national organizations are pro-life feminists, despite the fact that they don't hold a majority of the pro-life movement. I did an analysis on a Pew Research poll. They're not the majority. The feminists aren't the majority. Majority of the pro-life movement believes that women should be held accountable.
Yep.
Which is, it was very uplifting to actually hear that. I was actually pretty encouraged when I uncovered that, because it came out of like Christianity Today just lying about it. They just lied about what a study stated. Let's see. However, the current mantra, abortion on demand for any reason, at any time in pregnancy, without apology, has always struck me as a gruesome celebration of something macabre. I don't know that word. As if terminating an 8-month viable pregnancy because the baby is female is something feminists and progressives want to champion. And yes, it is. Like, why is he asking that rhetorically? Why is that a rhetorical question? Of course, this is something they want to champion. They're pro-abortion.
Yeah.
That is the exact thing that they would want to champion.
Yeah, it's like he has more charity. He has zero charity for right-wingers, but all the charity in the world for these people who they may as well just start saying, I want to eat babies. They're at that point, but he'll have infinite charity for them.
I think they have at some point said that in American protests, they have said they wanted to eat babies. Well, like that is like a joke in the pro-abortion camp, is that they want to eat babies. But yeah, I mean, but safe, legal, and rare was always going to lead to on demand. Because if you reject the premise that you're killing a human being, why shouldn't it be on demand? Like, why would you want it to be safe, legal, and rare? Yeah. That is a terrible argument for them.
Yeah. Yeah. That's like safe, legal, and rare. Well, why safe, legal, and rare? It's just something that the woman can dispose of if she perceives any harm for it.
Unless they want to actively embrace eugenics, in which case safe, legal, and rare wouldn't be a bad slogan. But since the pro-abortion movement has moved away from that into a more emotional re-feminism, they don't really they have to change their slogan. So, reflections on overturning of Roe v. Wade. Back to thoughts on the overturning of Roe v. Wade. You don't really need to say that when you had a subtitle there. First, a lot of people think that Roe v. Wade was an attack on democracy. It wasn't. I wouldn't care if it were.
Yeah. Democracy, bro. Like, it's It's a perfect litmus test when you see an American or a non-American talking about American politics, talk about our democracy or the American democracy. It's a litmus test for knowing how well they actually know the foundation of their own republic, which was very explicitly not a democracy. It has democratic ideas like the idea of a common people voting, but otherwise very anti-democratic in other principles, at least in its founding. So that just goes to show how Michael
Right.
Bird doesn't know the first thing about the founding of the United States. Or if they do know about it, they don't care.
We're a republic if we can keep it. America was, to my knowledge, the only country in the world that made abortion a constitutional right. Not true. And I don't even know if I don't even know if either one of those counts is true. Whether America has made it a constitutional right, no, we hadn't. Or whether it's the only country in the world, that's probably also not true either.
Yeah. Well, maybe he maybe like relates. He puts a 1-to-1 correlation between constitutional right and what SCOTUS says is a constitutional right. That's probably what he means.
Yes, and again,
Very
that's not how
authoritarian view of knowledge.
Yeah, not a very constitutional view of the United States for sure, or English common law, which Australia also has. Because courts cannot make law according to English common law. Now, America got away from that hardcore long before Roe v. Wade, but nonetheless, that's not how the U.S. Constitution worked, and that's why we were able to successfully win in the Dobbs decision. So, by overturning Roe v. Wade, America has now has to deal with abortion legislation, prohibition, or permission through its federal and state legislatures, like every other country in the world. We still had that before every other country in the world. Like that was a dumb line that shows his lack of understanding of American politics. Overturning Roe v. Wade ends American exceptionalism on this issue. Wow, he just dropped a diss. Keep in mind, I have barely skimmed this article before deciding I got to do a live stream on it and pull in my Australian counterpart here. But I've not read this entire article. I'm just dumbfounded. Like, he just tried to drop a diss. We're like, really? Really? I don't want to pull up World War II, but you guys aren't speaking Japanese for a reason down there.
Yeah, honestly, Mike, have some humility. This is coming from another Australian, man. Come on.
That being said, no one was worse to the Chinese than the Chinese. Just saying. Maybe the embargo wasn't necessary on Japan. Anyway, second opposition to Roe v. Wade is not just about religion. There are secular arguments against abortion by atheists, such as the late Christopher Hitchens, who rejected it on humanist grounds. There are also genuine legal arguments that SCOTUS should never have made abortion a constitutional right, which have nothing to do with religion, the Bible, or Holy Writ. The 1973 decision created a new constitutional right, ex nihilo, precisely why many legal theorists think it was a legal mistake, even if some think the mistake needs to be preserved for the sake of avoiding socio-political turmoil.
That it's like, look, technically true, all true. Legal, it was legal BS, absolutely.
Oh, yeah.
But when he goes along the whole thing of like, the arguments had nothing to do with religion, the Bible, or Holy Writ. Just that beautiful, just yet another beautiful example of the classic Evangelical who doesn't have any concern of asserting the authority and reign of Christ over the earth. What if our reasons were entirely? Well, here's the thing: all our reasons fundamentally are religious. Let's be real. All of our core reasons for being against abortion. If your only reasons, like Michael Bird, his only reasons for being against abortion are not entirely just legal. That it went against constitutional norms and all that jazz and such. He fundamentally denies it because of religion, the Bible, and Holy Writ. And so I just need to simply ask the question: do you actually believe that this is binding? And I don't care if you say, oh, but it's not going to be convincing to the unbeliever. So bloody what? Do you believe it's true or not? And if so, should that not be enforced on the basic grounds that it is actually true, that the Bible is the word of God, God's commands are binding, and therefore they should be enforced in the civil realm. Do you not believe that, Michael Bird? If not, then in what sense do you actually affirm Jesus as Lord? Because frankly, you don't. If your concern is about having reasons that are not to do with the religion or the Bible.
Matt Bell raises a point of order that Peter Hitchens is better than Christopher Hitchens. I don't know who either of those people are, but
yeah, it's kind of like a duality, man. So Christopher Hitchens, famous atheist author and speaker guy, died in 2011 or something. He was even respected by non-atheists and other Christians because he was very, very articulate and he could speak very well, funny and all that. Peter Hitchens, still alive. His brother, the exact opposite, uber conservative, traditional Christian, still doing social commentary today and an absolute Chad. So it's a very interesting case of like a tale of two brothers.
If having some of the most lenient abortion laws is what American exceptionalism means, I don't want to be exceptional anymore.
Well, we're more exceptional here in Australia, or at least here in New South Wales. Our laws are shocking, absolutely shocking.
And, America, we were not the first nation to abolish slavery. I believe that was Mexico. But America would be number 2, I believe. And we had to fight a war to do it. So, good on the European colonies for inventing or reinventing the abolition of slavery. That's pretty exceptional. But as far as abortion goes, we are probably the only Western country that has swathes of the country, significant swathes, where abortion is illegal. It's going to be very regimented. Like you're going to have some places that are full Canada, and then other places that are full based Christian Jesus land, as the meme goes. But
so true.
We are 2 countries. America's really 2 nations at this point. You got the Marxists and you got the people that are American, really. So let's see. Okay. We're at the third. Third, I hasten to point out that most European nations have more restrictions on abortions than some American states. Most European states, with few exceptions, are allergic to abortion after 24 weeks of pregnancy. However, in many U.S. states, abortion can go right up to the moment of birth. Yeah, that's certainly the case where I live. I can't provide the stats, but I live in a state where you can get abortion on demand up to
I meant
birth.
like Michael Bird. Like, can you actually give us numbers? Like what states, how many? Not just.
But here's the thing: how many European nations have outlawed it?
Yeah.
How many European nations have a heartbeat bill? And let's actually do a 1-for-1 comparison. One state equal one nation, because America's the United States, and then Europe. European unions really should just count as one nation. I'm sorry. If our American government, we're only sending one ambassador to Europe. If you're in the EU, you get one ambassador. You got to share because they're not really sovereign nations. So with that said, how many European nations have more pro-life laws than very pro-life states? You have the state of Missouri, which functionally has 0 abortion. Pretty impressive. I believe South Dakota might also be on that level as well. Texas is fighting to get on that level. Idaho is around that level. Oklahoma is around that level. Wyoming's probably around that level. A lot of states are zeroing in on 0 abortion. So we're having this. We're winning here. How many states or countries in Europe have that same phenomenon going on? Not a lot. Louisiana is absolutely illegal. Okay, that's great to hear. I forgot about Louisiana, and Arkansas might also be on the list as well. Alabama, I believe, had a constitutional amendment on this issue. So, treat American states as a European nation. That is a far better equivalency in measuring, we're the United States, but we're really a divided states. With Virginia's new governor, hopefully become much more restricted. Don't hold your breath. That governor is woke. Glenn Youngkin's a Republican who rode the issue of critical race theory to victory, but he goes to a woke church. This guy is not an actual conservative, just saying. But he is malleable. To his credit, he's malleable. But your attorney general there in Virginia, I think, is actually pretty good. So, fourth, Roe v. Wade was symbolic of who is in control of America: white religious conservatives or white progressive or white political progressives.
Oh my word.
Okay, I gotta take a pause right there. I'm like, that might be the most profound observation he's made this article. Maybe like that is his best dichotomy in this article. Like trying to equate women's bodily autonomy with innocent life. No. Trying to compare Europe to the United States, that was pretty bad. But comparing who's in control of America, the white liberals or the white religious conservatives, I'll take that. I think that's actually a decent comparison because let's be real, other than the fact that, Big Juice is in control of the media here. That Kool-Aid man is just everywhere. Oh, yeah.
Oh dear.
Okay. But I think that's pretty accurate. And then black culture really just defines white culture a couple years down the road. That's also an American phenomenon as well. But I think this is that's his best observation about the United States yet. Roe v. Wade was a symbol of cultural influence, power, hegemony. Those are synonyms, right? And ascendancy. Roe v. Wade was the flag in a political game of capture the flag. Okay, I got to pause right there because that's not even accurate. Like, we have political games of capture the flag in the United States politics. You see, specifically when we get a new president, you'll see that new president is immediately do executive orders, undoing a lot of the executive orders that were committed by the last president. That's capture the flag. Like the Mexico City policy is back in session, or in Trump's case, he moved the embassy from Tel Aviv to Jerusalem. Good luck moving that back. Or we're going to make illegal immigrants have to stay in the United States. I believe that was called Title 42. We have a lot of capture the flag things like that. This was not capture the flag. That trivializes it because in capture the flag, there's back and forth. This was a long march through the legal institutions.
Mm-hmm.
This was a long campaign that took several years, several mistakes. The Republicans had to get 5 judges on the Supreme Court. We had significantly more appointments to the Supreme Court than the Democrats did, but we were batting 50%. We were batting 500, which is bad if you're appointing courts. Great in baseball, bad in appointing justices, because half the justices the Republicans would appoint. I'm talking about Anthony Kennedy. I'm talking who's not only pro-abortion, but also gave the country gay marriage because he's a faithful Catholic. And then Sandra Day O'Connor, who, was the first woman appointed to the Supreme Court by Ronald Reagan and went full feminist afterwards because she liked being liked. Going back to what I said at the beginning, if you like being liked, you will sell out. And that's a case of this. But this is not a capture the flag game. This was a long march through the institutions. Like, get it right. This was Alexander the Great building a bridge to the city of Tyre so he could conquer it, or the Romans building that siege ramp up to the mountain of Masada so that they could sack it. Only the pro-aborts did not just ritualistically kill themselves. If only they did.
Whoa, woo, lad.
I'm just kidding. Just kidding. But that would fix America overnight, though, in many ways. Let's be just brutally honest about that. The religious right wants ascendancy, but so does the progressive left. Call me cynical, but the progressive left is not truly pro-woman any more than the religious right is truly pro-life. Oh, he's trying to do the equivalency game here. They're not truly pro-woman. I mean, in the God sense, they're not. They're not. But in the feminist sense, they are fully feminist. This is what feminism leads to. they are following feminism to its logical conclusion. You get rid of the distinction between gender roles, then you open up the doors to sexual immorality greatly. Then you say men can become women too. Then you say, everyone just be an androgynous female or an effeminate male, and we're just going to get along great in society. That's basically what feminism hasn't become. And now it's like women are beyond accountability. That's another thing that feminism has emerged in the last 10 years. And you see that in every film that has a female villain almost. And that villain will not be held accountable for their actions. They will have a redemption arc shoehorned in there. And it, in some ways started out with the movie Frozen, where Elsa's the villain of the script the entire time. But because this is Disney and because they took 70 years to write this movie and they don't have a clear-cut bad guy, they just changed her to be the good guy at the end, even though she tried to murder her sister multiple times. But, water under the bridge or ice under the bridge. So ridiculous statement. And obviously going back to his idea of the let's expand the definition of pro-life.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
call me cynical, but the progressive left is not truly pro-woman any more than the religious right is truly pro-life. Yeah, absolutely horse crap. Absolutely horse crap. That's just dumb. We are pro-life, simple as that. Because pro-life doesn't. I'm sorry, Mr. Bird, but pro-life doesn't mean that we accept all of your specific socially progressive welfare programs. Like, heaven forbid, shock and horror. That's not what pro-life has historically been meant to apply to. And you, as a biblical scholar, should know all about the necessity of keeping words in their context.
Now, I had a feminist college professor once that talked about, I believe she wore a shirt to class. And there are two types of liberal professors, and I'm sure you could attest to this. We only usually talk about the one. She was the other type, which I'll talk about after I tell this story. But she wore a shirt that said, being a feminist is believing that women are equal or whatever, or women are human. Some sort of t-shirt like that one day to class. And it's like, that's their idea of pro-woman. You got to, understand what their terms are. They believe that, they believe that, being pro-woman is feminism. And then post modern Czechoslovakian war factory, feminism should be called butchism. It never supports true femininity, and that's kind of what we're talking about here.
The whole goal of feminism is to make women into men functionally. That's it.
And then say that women are better than men afterwards.
Yeah. Anything you can do, I can do better.
So there are two types of liberal professors. We always talk about the one that wants to indoctrinate you like hardcore. This is what the movie God's Not Dead was based off of, that type of professor. Then you have the other type of liberal professor, which is like, everyone's going to get an A in this class. Like, you don't have to actually work to get a good to get a passing grade in this class. Like, I had more liberal professors that were like, let's just, I'm going to make this as easy as possible because you guys are college students. And, meritocracy bad, right? It's like, no. And then you can bring a study sheet into a test, which I just think is a really stupid phenomenon.
That's so funny.
But that's a thing in American universities. You can bring a note card or maybe even a sheet of paper, as long as it's handwritten for a test. Like, that's just a liberal phenomenon in American colleges. I'm not even joking. To the progressives, if they are pro-woman, then why do they freeze with paralysis when it comes to defining a woman? Why do they refuse to reject sex-based abortions of babies being female? Why do they refuse to speak up for the 28% of women who are coerced, often with threats of violence, into having an abortion by a partner? Now, that I question. I don't think it's that high. Why do they denigrate pro-life women, many of whom are WOCs or women of color? The progressive left is only selectively pro-women.
Very true.
That part's true. I question the 28% stat because, we see the stats here in the United States that most abortions are just completely elective. and not even based off the cost percentage. And this data comes from the pro-abortion crowd, the Guttmacher Institutes, where we get most of our data on abortion from, and they are like the information research and development arm of the abortion industry. So, and usually when you ask someone to define what's a woman, their answer is someone who identifies as one.
Yeah.
And then you kind of have to ask
loop,
these circles.
You know, it's meaningless. Yeah. It's meaningless.
So, let me scroll down a little bit. Okay, the overturning of Roe v. Wade was the fulfillment of prayers, hopes, and dreams. Wait, he uses a Oxford comma here, but not elsewhere in this article. Okay. Of the religious right. However, I think that subsequent actions will prove that the American pro-life movement was not always, perhaps not ever, a truly pro-life movement. With the overturning of Roe v. Wade, will the pro-life movement now proceed to protest and petition for free health care for pregnant women, paid maternity leave, safe housing, and subsidized child care for families? I know some pro-lifers will embrace that, but the vast majority will not. For many on the religious right, overturning Roe v. Wade was merely the symbol for their ascendancy. Saving babies was just a bonus.
Yeah, that's absolute bullshit slander.
I gotta
that is absolute
okay, because this is someone who
you're not truly pro-life unless you support my leftist social programs. Even if oh my god,
okay, so
notwithstanding the truth of whether those things are good or not, is Bird capable of seeing the clear distinction in magnitude and moral and practical magnitude between, let's get women free healthcare and safe housing versus let's not kill babies? Okay. Can he not see the bloody difference?
There is so much to break down in here because does this guy even know American policy? Does he even know American politics? Let's just start.
He doesn't.
So let's start with the petition for free health care for pregnant women. Has he never heard of Medicaid? We already have that. I mean, it's really for low income. It's not just for all pregnant women, but it's for low income. Already have that. Paid maternity leave. Okay, well, we don't quite have that, but there's a lot of companies or maybe state laws that might actually mandate this. Yep. Safe housing. Since when is government housing ever in good neighborhoods?
Yep.
Just think about that. Like, isn't there like a whole thing in The Wire? They tear down the government housing because of how unsafe it was. And it was just a den of drug dealers. But like, seriously, like, you want the government to provide housing. That housing will be full of criminals. You don't want that.
Yep. Yeah, that's
Subsidized child care for families. What is a public school?
Honestly, hey. So true.
Like, all these teachers complain about how much money that they are or not making. It's like, you do realize the main value proposition of public school is childcare.
Yeah. It's absolutely amazing. This when they bring this thing up, when the Evangelical fake conservatives like Bird and others bring up these things as pro-life issues, it really shows that they just really are snakes, because he does not consider the very basic charitable possibility that whether a person is correct or not, okay, because someone can be honestly mistaken, shock and horror. That is a genuine category. Someone can genuinely be totally against abortion. They want to ban it, destroy it, and all that stuff. But they can, for consistent reasons, whether their factual data is right or not, also be against something like, let's say, free healthcare for women or subsidized childcare for families, on the basis of principles like this is gonna kill economies, or the government should not be involved in this, and we should instead build up local communities to be able to do this for themselves. Does he even consider that there are people who may actually believe this stuff, or heaven forbid, maybe a lot of pro-life people who are really into pro-life stuff simply don't spend a lot of time thinking about those topics for the very justifiable reason that they are not existential crises like abortion is. Heaven forbid, Bird. Have you considered that? Have you considered not slandering right wingers for once, and considering maybe I can have an ounce of the charity that I have for leftists in this case? He can't, because he's a dumbass.
I think the chat is having trouble deciding whether you are Australian or British.
Australian. I'm not one of the mushy the mushy peas or the fish and chips crew. I'm not one of those guys. No, I'm the supreme Australian.
But I'm just.
Boy, cat chat. I'm busy too. That's yelling. Heck yeah.
Let's see. I want to read this comment by Matt. That's like saying we ended slavery just to feel good. Treating everyone equal is just a bonus.
Yeah.
Now,
it's stupid.
Theoretically in America, to some degree, that was it, because, there is a difference between ending slavery and ending abortion. Ending abortion, we don't have to worry about the people that will be born afterwards. We really don't, because the duty of care is on the parents to take care of the child. Ending slavery, you had to worry about the people that would no longer be slaves. And there was a lot of disastrous policies in the Reconstruction era that just didn't really help out. That's for sure. And people starved.
People who in the chat are saying British, Kiwis are from New Zealand. No, because Ray mentioned British, so I was responding to that as well. But I also saw Kiwis in the chat.
That's a. And then New Zealand, I was just kind of messing around there because a lot of Americans struggle to tell the difference. Yeah. So I wasn't sure what their perspective was. I was making fun of Americans.
So true. But yeah,
I'm terrible at that too. But I've gotten a lot better listening to Australians more often than I listen to British people.
That's it, yeah. And so Bird just doesn't have an answer chat. He doesn't consider that people may have consistent, self-thought-out reasons for being totally anti-abortion, but then not necessarily supporting things like free healthcare, because there's other concerns. With anti-abortion, there's really no economic concerns. Any economic concerns are entirely the fault, with the exception of rape, which is virtually non-existent in the stats. But with the exception of rape, the fault of abortion, of financial troubles and social troubles, is entirely the fault of the woman and the guy that she had a one-night stand with, okay? So It's not, there's no financial concern with that. That's entirely on them. They have to deal with those consequences. And God willing, the local church and their families will be able to help them with that. But with issues of subsidized healthcare, childcare, safe housing, quote unquote, these are things that necessarily involve government intervention, government power into the sectors, involving the payment of taxpayer money, great social reorganization, things which may give people legitimate reason, whether they're correct factually or not. Again, whether they're correct or not, they may have legitimate concerns if they think that's the case, to at least be hesitant, if not straight up oppose policies, social welfare policies like that, and yet be totally consistent in totally opposing abortion, because banning abortion is just banning something from happening. Whereas these policies are making the government proactively do something, which involves a whole different set of issues altogether. So it's absolute horse crap to say that these are pro-life just as pro-abortion is. So anti-abortion is.
And the other thing I want to point out, like he says, the vast majority will not. Yes, because majority of the pro-life feminist movement, or majority of the pro-life movement, is not on the feminist side. And we had an instance in Kansas, the state of Kansas, where they actually do have a constitutional provision in a similar way. They had like a state level Roe v. Wade court case that found that abortion was protected in their Kansas constitution. And they wanted to do an amendment to remove said protection, but their amendment wanted to bring up the incest rape exceptions. Like, why are you even doing that in an amendment? And it was called the Value Them Both Amendment, and it lost. It lost by nearly 20 points. Now, part of that was bad Republican turnout. As someone who's run for office, I can attest to bad Republican turnout being a huge thing. Other parts was this was a poorly worded amendment. It was a poorly marketed amendment. You had an equal rights amendment that they sacked in order to advance a feminist pro-life amendment. So I'm glad that he says that we're the majority. I just wish we had more institutional control of the pro-life movement, because we do not, and that's holding us back. That's holding us back a lot. That is the end of the article. It has 23 likes and 7 comments. Let's just see the comments.
So good to see a balanced and realistic view. As you say, it's bound to be unpopular to occupy the sane middle ground. Like, shut up. There is no in the Game of Thrones, you either win or you die. There is no middle ground. Likewise with political discussions like this. You're not, there is no middle ground. You have a positive position, even if it's third way. Third way is not the same as occupying the middle. Okay, it's not.
Okay.
Occupying the middle would be, well, let's ban exactly half abortions. Okay, that'd be the middle position.
The
Well,
flag
even that wouldn't be, because it's still accepted in principle. Yeah?
The flag and capture the flag. This makes so much sense.
Oh my gosh. It's not like conservative pro-lifers, even including the ordinary people, have principled reasons for actually opposing abortion and aren't just all political war dogs who just want to get to the highest position. Oh no, surely not. What absolute slander.
I mean, when liberals go political, they're speaking truth to power, but when conservatives do it, they're making politics an idol.
Yeah.
Or that's basically what you hear
if,
from evangelicals.
or when there is a condemnation of progressive power playing, it has to go hand in hand with a conservative one as well. You can criticize conservatives on their own all the time, but if you criticize progressives, you have to criticize conservatives as well. That's the Big Eva playbook.
It is. And, I did a video earlier today about God TV trying to do the same thing. I've never heard of them before, but it's like they're going after Sean Foyt for retweeting America's governor, Ron DeSantis, home of the Florida Man and the Big D Energy down there. And it was Ron DeSantis invoking scripture heavily referencing scripture in a Bible quote, or not in a Bible quote, but heavily referencing scripture in a quote. And they're acting like he's altering scripture. It's like, no, he's using biblical imagery.
Yeah.
He's not citing scripture and then changing what it actually says, like Ezekiel 25:17 or whatever Samuel L. Jackson's monologue is in Pulp Fiction. Like, that is changing scripture. The verse is not that long. But let's see, 100% agree with you with what you have carefully, thoughtfully, and fairly presented. No. Thank you, Dr. Bird.
It's only fair in the sense that he has to artificially lie about the nature of the sides in order to make them appear in some way equivalent. That's it. Because from the presupposition of a Orthodox Christian worldview, it is absolutely no contest that one side, no matter what flaws, even if we grant all the flaws that are claimed about it, is astronomically more superior morally than the other. So the only thing that Bird and other Big Eva people can do about it is to lie about that group in order to make them seem equivalent.
Right. And it's basically like, let's just table our best pro-life arguments so it's actually an even fight. Like, I don't think the abortion debate's even remotely close because they don't want to debate it.
Yep.
They lose every time. Instead, they just and scream and then say inadvertently based things like, if you don't want us to have abortions, we're not going to have sex with you.
Please, by all means.
I'm not interested in harpooning any land whales.
Yeah, I was going to say the same thing.
But
I don't feel like getting on. I don't feel like getting on with the. I don't feel like getting on with the Daedra.
Dave Portnoy at Barstool Sports might have some exceptions to that. So Czechoslovakian says centrists like to grill, but they will get eaten alive by the left. Those people never stop. And I think being a centrist is basically being pro status quo, and they try to assert an artificial moral high ground.
Yeah, which is stupid. It's dumb.
So I get tired of that for sure. And then we got some meme review to move on to now that we have concluded.
Let's go. I need to bring that back. I haven't done that in so long on my channel. But it's because my streams are so damn long that a meme review would make it even longer.
I am trying. Hold on, I need to actually figure out where I put it.
Ad remover. How dare you? Are you like...
It's my own website.
Do you not love your website ad holding neighbor, Ray? Come on. Are you like stealing income from the poor website owners? Come on, man.
Yeah. Poor website owners.
This is gonna be good. This is gonna be
Evangelical good. Dark Web LLC. Well, let me know how much I need to zoom it in, because I can't see while I'm messing around here.
A little bit more zoom in.
Hold on. All right.
Oh, this is so good.
So I am for those of you, actually, I should probably explain the context first.
Yeah, you
So,
should.
Cross Politic last Wednesday, I believe, they had a podcast in which they blamed transgenderism on credo baptism in making a very ludicrous anthropological argument dressed as a philosophical argument.
Yeah.
About how transgenderism has the same individualism that credo baptism has.
Yeah. And so
So
the Baptist, like, that was the hot take I was never expecting. The Baptists created transgenderism.
So let's dive on into some memes. I am a sucker for SpongeBob memes. Like, if you give me a SpongeBob meme, I'm gonna go all over that. So, actually, let me see if I can. Let me see if I can actually
good.
get us some more room here. Hold on, I wanted to let me fix that because let me go
I'm
to.
just hoping this doesn't go into a full blown like massive split in like the cool guys, like the Reformed Baptists and the cross politic Moscow, Idaho Presbyterians. Like, I just hope they just realize, okay, that was a stupid take, but the good news is that we're dealing with other fellow traditional Christians. They're all good for forgiveness. So sorry, let's move on.
Yeah, and that's what I would like to see happen. The
Yeah.
problem is they're digging in their heels on this so unnecessarily.
Are they seriously?
Okay, there we go. We got more room here. Okay. Credo Baptists are the reason for the transgender crisis, and you got the RCA, ECLA, UMC, Episcopalians, Cumberland Presbyterians, and then Patrick looks outside, the PCUSA piled high, and this is a nice meme about the source material is Patrick saying I've changed diapers before. He's changed like one. It's comparing how many diapers each of them has changed. So it's just
so true.
Always a fan of classic SpongeBob memes, not the new SpongeBob. If you ever watch the new SpongeBob, it is basically nostalgia. It is so self-nostalgic that it's not funny. Right. And I mean, when I say it's not funny, I mean it's literally not funny. Like, so how would you rate that meme?
I would rate that a solid 7.5 out of 10. 7.5 shekels out of 10.
I would say 9 out of 10 given the context. Very specific.
Actually, no, I'm gonna up mine to 8. It is very good.
There we go. Next one, always a classic. Prostotomy praise.
So true.
I don't know why. I've always been a fan of this meme.
It's
apparently like this meme comes from like this meme apparently has like is from like stock photo images.
It is
like apparently in the whole series, and they tell a story.
Yeah, they do. It really is the greatest story arc.
I'm gonna give this a 6 out of 10.
I'm gonna give it a 7. It's very good.
Cross Caesar Baptist transgender.
6 out of 10. It's funny and true, but it's 5 out of 10 actually. It's funny and true, but it's like pretty not.
Yeah, I give it a 5 out of 10 as well. This one I absolutely love.
And I took that personally.
Cross politics sees a believer baptized. And I took that personally. Now, here's the context for this meme. It's from the Last Dance documentary series. That was, I believe, a joint venture of ESPN and Netflix, which is why it's good. And the context is like in Michael Jordan's career, he had to invent beef to keep himself interested in playing basketball, because when you're playing basketball to such a high level, and I mean like you're better than everyone else on the court and you know it, you have to invent ways to stay on your game because everyone else's game is elevating because they know they're up against the GOAT. And you have to stay interested. And he would just invent ways to stay interested. So that's where that meme comes from, is him explaining. And I took that personally. And when you go back to cross politic, they see, they're trying to invent ways to disagree with credo baptism. They're trying to invent beef with credo baptism. So the context of these memes really aligns quite well. They're inventing issues and drama because they have time. They think they're so good that they can do that. And I called it repeatedly. It was shock, jock, ivory tower, navel gazing is what they were doing.
That's a mouthful.
It is a mouthful. And I want to say that I might have had like another word on top of it.
Yeah.
That I've forgotten.
You said they're digging in their heels about this though?
Yes, like they are. They did like 2 other videos on YouTube defending their comments. And that's before like the others have individually responded. So, and like, I believe one, maybe a second person on there is like a Credo Baptist, but he didn't really kind of push back on that as hard as he could have.
Chocolate Knox.
Wait, we got yeah, Chocolate Knox, which is a really good name, by the way. I give this a 10 out of 10 because this is spot on. The meme template works really well with the subject matter.
I'll give it a solid 9. Solid 9 shekel.
The parallel and the accuracy of this meme template just works. So I love that. And I'm a big fan of that Michael Jordan meme. I'm not a big fan of the crying Jordan meme, but I am a fan of that one. Is this transgenderism? This meme is solidly smug. Love it. I'm going to give it an 8 out of 10 just because I'm not a huge fan of this meme. I don't actually know the occasion of this meme because I don't watch anime, but I think it's an 8 out of 10 just because it's sufficiently a roasting of cross politic.
Oh man. Oh, that's so funny. I'm just hoping that I'm ideally hoping that they eventually see the stupidity of their argument. But if they don't, I'm at least hoping that it can just become one of those other things where the different Protestant traditions, where we consider each other brothers in Christ, we do things together. But for a long time, we've always thought, oh, you guys believe this thing, and I think it's erroneous, and I think it does lead to these bad consequences and all that. And yet, you obviously don't affirm those bad consequences. I think you might be inconsistent, but nonetheless, you don't, and so I can still affirm you as a brother in Christ. If they do dig in their heels, which I hope they don't, I do hope nonetheless it can go that way, where it's like, look, I think your views go to these bad consequences, but I still want to work with you, still think you're a brother in Christ, and we can fight this stuff together. I hope it turns out like that, if they dig in their heels.
I mean, I just say we just meme them for it forever.
Yeah. Yeah, that's what I'm hoping as well. Just meme him into submission.
Yes, we can do that. So, well, how would you rate this one?
I rate this one a solid 8. It's a very good one. 8.
Alrighty, next meme. This is the newest meme that is gone viral. Is this one with the girl yelling, the skank yelling into the young guy's ear? And yes, she's definitely a skank. I don't know what this meme template's called, but I'd call it like yelling skank, Zoomer skank. Yelling, something like that. Bro, I'm telling you, Baptists cause transgenderism with their Credo Baptist theology. I think this is like a 6.5.
I reckon 6 for me. Because it's a bit too straightforward.
Yeah, the context works. I really like this meme. This is from Mad Men. If you've ever seen that show, I believe it's from season 1 of Mad Men, which is a very good season of Mad Men. Cross politic. I feel bad for you, Baptist. I don't even think about you at all. Don Draper just laying it down.
Got him.
So I think this is 8 out of 10 because I don't see this meme template enough, and I'm glad they brought it up. Although maybe I'll amend it to a 7 because it's not as true that we don't think about them at all, but it works really well. I would like a based reform evangelical Catholicity, please. Best I can do is blame you for the transgender crisis. I'm gonna say a 4. I'm gonna say a 4.
I'm gonna say 7 still.
It doesn't always work. Pawn shop one doesn't always work. Let me zoom out. Tom and Jerry. Presby's gave us revoice. Cross politics steaming.
That's an 8. That's an 8.
That is an 8. I agree. That is an 8. And then we got the Joker. Baptists are responsible for the transgender crisis.
It's all so tiresome. It's just a clown world now.
Yeah, I say this one's a 6, maybe a 7. What say you?
I reckon 7.5 at least.
All right, and then this one. From the office, Corbett needs you to find the differences between this picture and this picture. They're the same picture as Jason Farley.
That's a 10. That's 10 shekels.
This is a 10. This is a 10.
Putting the actual guy in there, that just made it so well.
They're the same picture. Yes. This is a straight 10. Wow. Like, and then you see the drag queen story hour at I want to say that was a Episcopalian or Lutheran church.
Yeah, I think it was a
1689 credo baptism.
That's so funny. I'm gonna share that after this. I'm gonna go to your site. By the way, people who are listening, people from my channel who are listening right now, subscribe here to Ray.
Subscribe here.
Awesome, really good independent journalism stuff for Christian news in America. Both here on the channel and on his website. It's awesome stuff.
Yeah, exactly. A lot of overlap, but definitely subscribe. And that being said, since we're probably going to be wrapping up soon, send your final questions for us in the chat that we can dive into while we're here, while you have a captive host, not really a captive audience, goes the other way around on YouTube. Hard memes, cross-politic, hard words. I actually think this is very targeted, and this works really well because of how targeted it is. So I give this a solid 8. It is very precise because that is how cross-politic brands themselves. They branded this incident as we're just doing hard words. We're not always careful, but we're just being hard about it.
Yeah, which is like I can respect that, but do expect to get the hard stuff back at you, mate. Like I hope they expect.
Just don't slander people. Like don't just be completely dishonest and overlook history by using anthropology, because that's basically what they were doing.
I don't know if it fully amounts to slander, just a really, really silly analysis, like genuinely dumb. Well, I don't know if it goes to slander though.
Here's the thing: if credo baptism is truly what the Bible teaches, it's worse than slander.
And obviously they deny that, but yeah.
Yeah,
they only make this criticism because they presume, as you do, that their view is right. So yeah.
Right. Which is why me being a credo Baptist was my first objection to their claim, because if that's not my first objection, what that says more about me than it does about them, actually. Let's see. Hard memes, cross-politic, hard words. Boom. It was always cool when guns could curve like that. Oh, there are more. I thought that was the last one. No, we got more.
Oh, this one's got, remember.
From Always Sunny in Philadelphia. Douglas Wilson's like, to the RW Dissident Baptist. I don't know what the W stands for. Reformed, I assume. Right wing, okay. I got you, brother. Cross-politic. Oh, no, you don't. Coming in as Frank.
That's so true. That's exactly what's happening. That's so spot on.
No, have you ever seen that episode of Always Sunny in Philadelphia? I believe it was like their. Oh, really? I believe that's when they were doing a parody of Die Hard. And this is them. Yeah, that's what they're doing here. Is like they're trying to reach for the person who's about to fall like 6 feet to the ground. So, do you have any history of? Oh wait, I didn't rate this one. I'd say this is a 7, but it's very precise. Do you have any history of mental illness in your family? I have a brother in Christ that thinks believers' baptism is to blame for the transgender crisis.
It's like
It's a
5.
5.
It's pretty too long. Too long.
I mean, this is from Parks and Rec, and it just kind of goes downhill when you realize that, Ron Swanson, who became like a libertarian icon, is like anything but a libertarian. Like, he's not even a real libertarian in the show, by the way, because no libertarian worth their salt would help Leslie Knope get elected to city council, where she became the Michael Bloomberg of a small Indiana town. Enacting soda taxes and stuff like that. Like, she was crazy, but the point of the show is to make very insane government policy mainstream by making it laughable. That was kind of the point of Parks and Rec as a TV show. Just some subtle context. And here's our last meme. It appears to be from Better Call Saul, I believe.
No, it's the same actor, but it's from an advert for Far Cry 6.
Okay, my bad. I have not seen the 6th season, so I was
The 6th
unaware.
game, you mean?
No, the 6th season of Better Call Saul.
Oh, right. I've only just started it. I'm only on season 3 right now.
What? No, they wrapped it up. They did their series.
I know, but I've only just started it myself.
So I've seen up to through season 5. I don't have cable, so I can't watch season 6. So I'm waiting for that to drop on Netflix or them to put it on AMC Plus, so I can get a week-long free trial and watch that. But that is Giancarlo Esposito, cross-politic after taking a cheap shot on Baptist. Cross-politic after waking up on an avalanche of dank memes. I actually like that meme template a lot because I don't like the Drake one because Drake is so cringe and fake. So, he did not start from the bottom. He was a child actor. That's, other than being a Saudi prince, that's as high up as you can start. I mean, even Demi Lovato hasn't sunk that low from starting off as a child actress. So how far can you really fall from there? You got to ask. But yeah. So speaking of Giancarlo Esposito, what do you think about him playing Professor Xavier? That possibility.
Obvious race swapping, but meh, whatever. Because like A, I've stopped caring about Marvel, and B, I like him as an actor. So yeah.
I do like him as an actor, but like, isn't Professor X supposed to be British?
Well, that's it. Oh, but well, here's the thing. Today, anyone can be British. That's the thing. Anyone can be anything.
Yeah, I don't know, but I don't know how much you can do recasting of X-Men, or at least modernizing it, because not Professor X, but Magneto being a Holocaust survivor is integral to his character. Like, you can't exactly replace that unless you want to swap him for the Armenian Holocaust. No, I'm just kidding. That happened before. You just do something similar. That would pretty much be your only way to counteract that. Any other last chats? Some of you apparently haven't heard of Cross Politic before. I've never really watched Cross Politic. I was actually thinking about inviting one of their people on before this to discuss one of my hot takes, but it just didn't. Then this happened, and it's like, I don't really feel like it anymore. Like, maybe you guys.
I listen to them a fair bit. They're good. They're genuinely great at a lot of things, but this was just one of their rare L moments, which almost everyone gets. But I just hope it doesn't fester.
Well, yeah, I mean, I already published the article, so there's no point in bringing someone on to talk about it at this point. But because it was just similar. But anyway, yeah, this, I believe, concludes our meme review. And you can catch all those memes at evangelicaldarkweb.org. That is a published article, so you shouldn't have to look far for that. Otherwise, there is a nice RSS subscription feed that you can get daily news letters to bypass big tech algorithms, because, it's weird. I don't know how much data there is to back this up, but I feel like DuckDuckGo does more search censorship than Google does.
Probably. Didn't they just get recently bought out by Google?
Not that I know of.
That's what I heard. Actually, let me briefly look
really?
that up.
Yeah, look that up. But I know they are pretty much down with the Great Reset. Their emphasis was on privacy, not lack of censorship. So just a FYI for all you people out there thinking that DuckDuckGo is a safe alternative, No,
No, it's not.
they're not. I've switched
Yeah, it's
to
been
Brave
proven.
search. Oh, wait, they did get bought out by Google?
I looked it up. Apparently, it's not. Apparently, it's a bit of a misnomer, a bit of
Oh,
a
okay.
myth or whatever. I'm not sure, but I do know for a fact that it was shown that they do like keep tracking and all that stuff. So they're based on total false pretenses.
Right. And the other thing is that uh yeah, I think they do censor. The hardest part of finding a search engine replacement is image search. I believe Brave search is coming the longest. They're in beta stage, so that's what I
Yeah,
use.
yeah,
I
I use
suggest
it too.
because we need alternatives that don't sell us out before they
That's it.
get big. But Google has the number one and number two largest search engines in the internet, being Google and YouTube. So I would be shocked if they wanted to buy the third place in that. But judging by the the search traffic on my website, DuckDuckGo has taken a huge nosedive in the last year, whereas Google, they took their nosedive a while ago, like late last year or late 2020. They took a nosedive. That's when they turned a censorship switch on me. Uh, but otherwise, yeah, DuckDuckGo is just like, yeah, we're
Fake.
throttling you down a lot. So I stopped using them for that reason and their censorship. Uh, but anyway, I think that's really all we got for tonight. TheOtherPaul is a YouTube channel that you can check out and subscribe
Yep.
to. I do have that linked in the description below because I just copied our
Very.
previous live stream together and put that down there. Otherwise, have a blessed day. We will catch you on the next one. If you stuck around this long and haven't subscribed, what are you doing?
Yeah.
Also, like the video on your way out.